He is the one and only Drew Dober, who defeated Ricky Glenn in the first round. Took him just 2 minutes and 36 seconds and got a performance of the night bonus for it as well. He's kind enough to join us on the program. There he is. Not a mark on his face, not a scratch on his face. A nice night at the office. How are you, Drew? Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I feel fantastic. Not as colorful as I usually am after fights. I don't know if you've ever seen me fight before. So I'm just enjoying this rare occasion.
This is fantastic. Did you think it had a chance to end early, or are you surprised that it wasn't a war?
I'm always ready to fight the full 15 minutes, and plus I know how tough Ricky Glenn is. But man, we put in the work, and it came to fruition. And yeah, I'm just glad it was only 2.5 minutes.
We've talked about fatherhood, and you're expecting a child. You had your son there. Son, correct? Am I right about that? I don't want to mess that up. Daughter. Golly. You had your daughter there. Yes,
right.
Yeah, of course. I should have known that. That's my bad. But to have your firstborn there in the Apex in a very intimate venue, right? It wasn't like 18,000 people. What did that do to you?
Oh man, it's humbling actually. So we chose this one because it was the Apex and it was intimate, and so I don't know if I want to bring her into the
Right.
large drunken crowds at the T-Mobile. So to be able to share this moment with my daughter was surreal. It was you can't put it into words. It was I get to have that forever,
Right.
and so it's just I'm going to cherish it. We're going to frame it, and it's just going to be mine forever. And it was super humbling because being a dad. Being a fighter, like they're separate. Like nobody, like my daughter's not gonna care. My wife doesn't care. Monday, I'm like, I'm on diaper duty now.
Right.
So like it was just super humbling to enter that cage going, really, I'm just doing this for me. Like I'm fighting for myself because it doesn't matter at home. And so just that like humbleness going into the cage, like now I know like we get this done because I want it.
Incredible. Were you aware of where she was sitting?
Yep. Yeah, I saw her on the walkout. Oh God. I mean, the entire night I was trying not to get choked up. Like it was so special to me.
And then you got to take the pictures with her afterwards. Like you got to do the things that fighters get to do after a win, but now with your child. You've done it so many times before, but now doing it as a dad with your child. That must have been incredible.
I mean, it's the moments that I've never fantasized about. Like I've always fantasized about wearing the belt, being a UFC fighter, world champion, all that stuff. But like being a father and a fighter at the same time, I guess I never really pictured it. So like it just hit me like a ton of bricks, and I was like, "Oh God, like this is incredible."
So currently, you have the most KOs in lightweight history. Does that blow your mind? Is that something that you thought was attainable for you in your career?
Again, one of the things I've never really thought about, and so it's really cool. Like I like that stat. It's really fun. I only just hope that it adds a little bit light and buzz to my name, so that way we can work on the resume. Because having the amount of knockouts is great, but now I'm ready for the big and great, fantastic fights. And so hopefully this record gets me these bigger fights.
So it looked like you were on your way to those bigger fights, and then unfortunately in your last fight you stumbled. In the aftermath of that, how did you deal with that, and how did that affect your confidence going into this fight?
I mean, we all get caught sometimes. The more times you roll the dice, better chance you're going to roll snake eyes. And I mean, how did a KO win work with Adriano Martin? Because Islam Makhachev is still a world champion, and Matt Serra, and I mean the list can go on. And getting knocked out or TKO'd because I wasn't out, right? The ref stepped in and a little too soon, I think. But I mean, we slipped up, and that's what happens. But it was more like, why? Why did I get caught? And that's kind of what I wanted to bring up, which was we kind of started believing in my hands and my chin and the Giga Chad, like we can do this with just these two things. And that's not what brought us there. So after the Favola fight, I had to remind myself, like, dance with the woman that brought you. How did we get to this knockout record? And we did it through setups, movement, mixed martial arts. Like I was shooting takedowns and all that stuff when I wanted to prove that I deserved to be in the UFC, right? And so we had to bring that back. Like Apex against Ricky Glenn, we had to prove that I deserved to be there again. And how we do that was we put in the work with the setups, the motion, the movement, grappling, wrestling. Like we brought it all back, and And the reason I was able to finish the fight in 2.5 minutes was because of the amount of work that we brought in, and we're going to continue that.
So did you feel like going into the Frivola fight, you were drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit too much? You were believing in your own hype too much, and that was
Yeah, absolutely.
okay.
Absolutely.
It takes a lot to
Like,
admit that. Respect. Not a lot of people would say that.
thanks. Yeah, I mean, it happens to us all. I mean, I think it happened to Charles Oliveira when he fought Islam. I think it, happened to Israel Adesanya against Strickland. So there is a moment where we start reading the internet, titles, and we start believing it, and it kind of just changes us a bit. And so I got humbled, both with Frivola and my daughter, and I was like, we're back to proving it again. And I wanted to prove that we can do it all. It's not just my hands and my jaw.
It's interesting the way you described the Apex too. Like, did you feel like you almost had to take a step back in terms of stage as well? Like, to almost like not to go to the Contender Series, so to speak, but that doesn't feel like MSG, right? That's not as big. And so, did you want to almost? I don't want to say punish yourself, but like you take a step back in order to now earn a big event, a big arena, something like that. Was that part of the mindset too?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The Apex against Ricky Glenn was reminding me of where we came from, that regional circuit where nobody watches. And you had to create the hype. You had to create the music. You had to it had to be loud internally because it wasn't loud externally.
Wow.
And it was a fun reminder. And like I said, having a daughter humbled me, and I had to go back to what brought us here, and we got to bring that back. And it worked.
What if they call you up and say your next fight is main event for an Apex card coming up? Are you down with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so you don't feel like now that you've got that win at the Apex and proved your worth that you're above it?
No, like the theme, the new kind of like what I've learned having a daughter now is like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to my daughter, my wife, my neighbors, my friends, my family. Like it doesn't matter. And really, journalists, I mean, you're only as good as your last fight. So it really doesn't matter to you guys either. Who it matters to is me. I'm doing this for myself. So that excitement, that passion, the loudness has to come from me. And we can do this in the Apex. We can do it in the T-Mobile. We can do it in some dude's backyard. Really, fighting is fun for me, and I'm going to have fun regardless of the venue.
It sounds like you were saying like, okay, like you want some big fights, right? You don't want to just be the knockout guy. Like you want to be on big cards of big fights. So is there a name that makes sense to you? Is there a name that excites you? Is there a name that fits that bill?
I mean, makes sense is different than what I want. What I want is like that Poirier, Michael Chandler, Conor McGregor, not for the money, the glam, the glitz, the women. I want it because like I'm ready to collect some bruises from Poirier. Like I want that. Now, what's feasible, like Diego Ferreira, we've tried to fight before. Jalen Turner, that Paul Felder said he's coming back. That would be a fun one. Dan Hooker could be fun. I mean, what I've shown in my career is I can hang with the best in the world. Bobby Green's going to have number 10 in front of his name here soon. And we know how our fight played out, right? And so we know I have the talent for it, right? We can have great fights with any one of these guys in the top 15. Now I just want to have that opportunity again.
And is Poirier that guy, like at the top of the list that maybe you think, right now might not be available to you, but if the UFC said, all right, here's like a blank check, you can take whoever you want. Is Poirier that guy?
Yeah, that'd be so incredible.
And why him?
I not only like because style-wise, dude, the guy's a monster.
He's amazing.
A living legend. The dude is like a champ without a belt. Like the guy is incredible, and I'm such a fan. So being able to stand across the octagon from him and enjoy and living 25 minutes because it will be a main event is like that's what I want. I want to be sweaty, bloody, tired, getting punched up by Poirier, and then finding my punches and creating a story with him.
You have the huge win over Bobby Green. He beats Grant Dawson in the main event of the card that you were on. Were you shocked that he did that, especially how quickly he did that?
Absolutely. I was very, very shocked. I know what he's capable of. I know, but like I also know what Grant's capable of. And really, I thought like Bobby's ideal time to win was in the later rounds because Grant is such a dominant wrestler. But he's hard to read and he hits hard. And so that 30 seconds was incredible.
Is it weird for you in the buildup? You're like, I knocked this guy out, and he's in the main event, and like one blunder for me puts me down. Like, do you look at it that way? Is that humbling as well?
No, because it's not what you do once, it's what you do often. Knocking somebody out or getting knocked out doesn't as matter as much as you think. Matt Serra has a win over GSP. Adriano Martin knocked out
Right.
Islam Makhachev. Like I got knocked out 10 years ago by Junior Hernandez, and who cares? Like it doesn't matter, right? And so Matt Favola has a TKO win over me. I have a KO win over Bobby Green, and it doesn't matter as much as people think, right? So now it's about a legacy. It's about what you do often, not just once.
Wow. This is incredible. Who taught you to think like this, or is this just something that you taught yourself?
I mean, this is something I practice. I mean, I fight historian. I've been watching fights for years. I love fighting so much. This is such an extreme passion of mine, and I think it's just that mentality, right? It's that mentality of fighting that's like the most beautiful. It's why we watch the Rocky films.
Right.
Like people like not only the success but the failures and the story in between. And like I know this, and like I'm living this, and so I just want to be real to myself always, and that's Matt Rula knocked you out. Why did he knock you out? How much does it really matter? And what are we doing next? Like, you just got to be real with yourself.
It's a great perspective because someone may stumble in their everyday life and think like the whole world is out to get them, when in reality, no one really cares. Like, dust yourself off, go back, and no one cares as much as you do, not even a tenth as much as you do, right? Like, that's really the lesson here.
Exactly. It's pursue greatness, chase it, ignore failure, because really failure doesn't matter as much as you think it does. Like, I mean, you look at the lightweight division, Charles Oliveira had his time where he was a failure. Dustin Poirier has his time as a failure. Michael Chandler had his time as a failure. Islam Makhachev got KO'd. Like, and like the lightweight division just showcases that it doesn't define you as a person. When you want to achieve greatness, your mess ups, like it doesn't define you. You can still be Michael Jordan if you get cut by your like high school team. Like it doesn't matter. So just keep chasing it, regardless of how often you fail.
By the
And
way,
I think boxing needs to learn to feel, like undefeated doesn't matter.
you feel like, yeah, they go like 35-0, and then you get one loss, and everyone thinks that you're done in boxing, as opposed to MMA. Some of the best fighters have had double-digit losses.
Right. That's the moment you become great, is after you experience that loss. And so, dude, boxing, they gotta start hanging on to those fighters more often and more frequently or heavier after a loss.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to take the tougher fights earlier, perhaps, as well.
Yeah, all respect to like Canelo, who doesn't really seem to care about keeping his undefeated record. He just keeps going, and so respect.
By the way, speaking of Charles Oliveira, that's the next pay-per-view, the lightweight title fight, your weight class. Do you think he could get it done?
Man, I think it's gonna be a tougher fight this time around.
Okay.
A longer, tougher fight, but I still think Islam's gonna get it done by decision.
Is there anyone in the top 5, top 6, top 10 that you think could give Islam a real run for his money?
And we all know Volk can give him a run for
Yeah,
the
but
money
he's
if he
not in
wants
the
to come
top
up
10. He's
again.
not in the top 10. That was kind of a trick question. But yes, I do agree. But in the lightweight division,
Um, let's see here. We got to see how things play out with the grapplers. We got Arman, we got Benil, we got
yeah.
Gamrot. I mean, there's some strong grapplers, because I think the key to beating Islam is you have to dismiss the idea that he's such a strong wrestler. Like you gotta be in it. Like next to my fight Islam, like I'm wrestling. Like we're wrestling. It's happening, and I might even get a takedown or two.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's what these lightweights need to do. It's you can't rely on this avoidance mindset of like, well, we don't do this, we do this. Like no, you go in there at his best and push him there, and then you can find it elsewhere. So yeah, so these grapplers coming up in the top 10 lightweight division, I think they're going to be given a strong case against Islam.
What would your advice? I mean, obviously Charles has fought him before. You have fought him before. What would your advice be with this mindset to Charles going into this fight?
You got to get in his face, and not just in the striking department. Like you got to shoot for takedowns. You got to push that. I mean, in the first one, he got hit by a check hook, fell down, and lost by arm triangle. So it wasn't really much there to kind of build off of. But in my advice, Charles, you got to get in his face. You can't wait for him to make a mistake because he's going to stay in his lane, right? You got to force him out of his box. And that's what Volk did. And I think a bigger lightweight with the grappling pedigree like Charles, I mean, he can if he just brings that in. Like F his wrestling, F his jiu-jitsu, F where he's from. Like I'm putting in my case. And I think that's what he needs to do.
You said the next time I fight Islam, I'll do X, Y, and Z. Do you feel in your heart that you'll get another crack at him?
Yeah. I think we're still gonna build off this daddy momentum, and we're gonna be seeing the top 5 here soon.
I love it. When do you want to fight again?
I told the UFC I'll be ready. I could be ready for December.
Oh,
so,
wow.
We'll see who is available, because that's always the big thing is I'll sign the dotted lines, but we can have an equal and opposite dance partner. And so we can call the names under the sun, but really it's we got to find somebody who's ready to go. And I know that I can be ready sooner than later.
I'll tell you a fun one that comes to mind. I saw Bobby and Dan Hooker going back and forth. But we had Renato Moicano on the show last week. That could be fun. Drew Dober against Renato Moicano.
Yeah, I've said his name numerous times. He went a little silent, but that would be an absolutely fun one. Diego Ferreira, we've tried to fight in the past before. Jalen Turner coming off the loss could be a fun one. I'm trying to remember the top 15 guys. There's so many names, but there's also like Paul Felder's getting in the mix, and that can be a fun one too. I don't really only look at the top 15. They got Joel Alvarez, who's a tough guy. He's got these lightweight up and comers. So to me, it's not so much, waiting for the bigger, better opportunity. It's I want to be able to fight as often as I can. So whatever name wants to say yes, like that's what I want.
Well, you're back on track. Well done. Great to see you with the daughter there and your wife there as well. It was really nice, and the photos afterwards were really nice as well. So well done to you. Congrats on the win, and looking forward to what's next, and you extending that lightweight record for as long as you are fighting. It's a great and somewhat unexpected thing to see develop, but it's pretty damn cool. So well done on that as well.
Thank you. I think Derek Lewis has 13, so that's now the new bar to reach.
Okay, we're at 9, right? With you, off the top of my head, is it 9?
Yes.
Yeah, 9. All right, so you got just a few more to go. Well done. A new thing to go after. Thanks, Drew. All the best.
Right. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it.
All right, there he is, Drew Dober, who is also now 4th in terms of finishes in the lightweight division. So what an unbelievable run he is on. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it very much. Hey, if you like this video, give us the old thumbs up. Subscribe as well. You could get many more of these videos on the channel, so please do that. We would love you forever if you did so.